Hello viewers, in this class let us uh, learn about the third module. Actually here the class is particularly regarding the computer communication network subject of VTU. It is Vishveshwara Technological University Belgaum, and with the subject code as 17EC64. In this module we are going to learn about the first wireless LAN, that is IEEE 802.11 Wi-Fi standard, followed by its architecture, then followed by its physical layer and MAC layer, and addressing mechanisms, and after that we learn about IEEE 802.11 2.15, that is Bluetooth architecture and its layer. Okay, then afterwards we learn about few of the networking connecting devices like hubs, switches, routers, gateways, and virtual LAN configuration. Later on we start discussing about the network layer services, then IP addresses, then circuit and switching and packet switching, then DHCP, and few of the other supporting protocols in network layer. Okay, so let us start our discussion with the wireless LAN, that is the IEEE standard is IEEE 802.11. okay, this is a standard by IEEE organization. Okay, so here we sometimes call Wi-Fi is called as a wireless fidelity. It is also called as WLAN, that is nothing but wireless local area network. Okay, so here we'll be using the radio frequency, that is with radio frequency we will be having wireless transmission. Okay, so with Wi-Fi we can create some of the hotspot like from a mobile, or with Wi-Fi router we can connect a few number of devices with the central access point. Okay, and when we come for a comparison between wired LAN and wireless LAN, so in case of a wired LAN, so we must have a wired connection. In case of wireless LAN, we make use of wireless radio frequency signals for a transmission, therefore it is a wireless, that is a medium wise. Then when we come for a host, then here again we'll be having a fixed link, and there will be a fixed wired connection in between them. But in this case host is actually physically not connected, but it is connected with the wireless medium, and even both device and host, they can freely move around the area. Here in case of wired there is no free movement. Okay, in this one another thing you can observe here, if it is a wired LAN then obviously we must have a centralized switch with wire like optical cable or twisted wire pair cable or Ethernet cable. The device has to be connected. Okay, but if we go for an ad hoc network, in that is in case of wireless LAN, so ad hoc network we need not have a centralized point layer. So all the devices have free to access, they can establish any network between each of them and exchange the data. That is called as ad hoc network. Okay, in case if we want to create an extended connection to a LAN, then connect to any other network, then you can see here there is one LAN connection. This is extended to other connections using one router. We can connect to the internet. We require a wired connection in this case. Again similarly in case of wireless LAN, what we do, we create a access point. Through that access point we access all the devices in a local area network connect to this access point. Through this access point they are again interconnected to a internet or any other network. When it comes for the concept of wireless, one problem is attenuation. In this attenuation, when signal transmit over the air, its strength goes on decreasing. That is one problem. Interference is because as we can see this in audio call, if I unmute all of you will start speaking and it gets disturbed. So many of the signals get overlapped. That is called as the interference simply. So as it's a wireless medium, any device can access in the same frequency, they get overlapped and it leads to interference. There is one more problem is there, and multipath propagation. So in multipath propagation, like Wi-Fi, usually it is installed in buildings and all. There will be multiple walls, windows, and all obstacles will be there. Signal gets hit over all the buildings, so they get merged, either they converge or diverge. So this leads to again a problem. And okay, and in errors because of this, as we have seen that the signal can be detected with a strength. If the strength is more, then signal can be easily detected. If strength is less, signal cannot be detected. So in wireless medium, signal goes on losing its strength, therefore it is very difficult to detect. All these are the problems with the wireless medium. So when we come for wireless medium, all these problem has to be addressed. It is very difficult to maintain the strength of signal here. But when we come for the architecture, this is important. I will try to show you. So architecture is divided into two things. That is, one is BSS, another is ESS. Spotlight. Okay, one is BSS, another is ESS. Okay, so basic service set is stands for BSS, ESS stands for extended services set. So what do you mean by basic service set? Directly, let me go to the diagram here. In this one, you can see that BSS, and this dotted circle which you can see is BSS, and okay, and each one of these three computers are connected to first BSS, another three are connected to second BSS, another three are connected to third BSS, basic service set. So this is one of the ESS. All these combined together create one ESS, that is extended service set. When we have multiple of these things, we call it as multiple set of extended service sets. We can see this second diagram also. See, people are waiting. May add. Okay. In this one distributed system, you can see that one, two, three BSS are there. Completely, we call it as one ESS, extended service set, one extended service set. The same thing I will try to show you in this Cisco packet tracer, so that I will it will make you clear concept. Okay. Now I have shared this uh, Cisco packet tracer. Let me connect the devices here. Let me make clear what is an extended service set and what is an basic service set. So in this Wi-Fi mode, if I want to connect one access point, and let me connect few of the access points. So I have taken I'll be taking few more devices. So this is okay. So this is one of the access point which are connected. For that, many mobile devices are there, and another access point is there for these two devices are connected, and these two are internally connected with wire like this. Okay, and in between we may have a server. We may have some servers, routers connected together. Okay. Okay, so here what we have created one access point. This is one basic service set. This is one basic, this completely, this creates one basic service set. Okay, and this is another basic service set, BSS. And this complete set we call it at one access, one extended service set. That means you can assume that in our department, ENC department, there will be 2 to 3 Wi-Fi access point that creates one access point. So one ENC department, civil department, and CS department, they create a multiple extended service sets. Okay, so if I want to the communication can be anything. That means this device can communicate with this device. This will be local communication. This device can, that is within the BSS communication, and this device can communicate with this device. That will be as within the extended service set communication. If we have multiple some other access point in the somewhere else, it is this device connected to another extended service set. If it wants to communicate with this one, we call it as communication between different access extended service sets. Okay, so this is a concept of the understanding between what is a extended service set and basic service set. Okay, so I think you have some understanding about this one, right? So one more thing is I want to make you clear this one. So here in this point there are two things. One is ad hoc network, another is infrastructure with an access point, this one. Okay, here what happens, this is a hotspot which we have created. For that, many freely moving devices are connected. This is one thing. This is a ad hoc network, and this is a with non ad hoc network. So ad hoc network means here there is no centralized point here. There is nothing centralized. So any device can communicate with anyone freely, but it is also wireless communication. So we can configure like this also. And another configuration is centralized. In this one we'll be having access point, AP access point will be there. So all of them have to communicate through this access point only. So here you should observe that if we want to connect to the internet or any network, then it has to be through the access point. Okay, without access point, by ad hoc, then only this will be created, this network, but that is not at all connected to any network, right? If you want to connect to the network, then we have to make use of uh, so Shreyas is asking one question, that is what is the use of access point. So access point like is just nothing but your hotspot. From your mobile you will create a hotspot. That hotspot will share internet to all other devices. You can connect to the internet, right? The same thing like your Wi-Fi router, like in college you will connect it to the Wi-Fi access point, right? All your mobiles and laptops get connected to the internet. So access point is one like a router which converts, sends electromagnetic radiations in the form of Wi-Fi signals, so that all the Wi-Fi devices will get connected to the network. Okay, I think Shreyas, your doubt is clear, right? So access point is just nothing but your hotspot. The hotspot you create and share the internet. All the devices get connected. Like in college, we'll have a one router fixed over the wall, and through that Wi-Fi, like D-Link and ENC department Wi-Fi, will be getting in your laptops. If you search, then you can connect to the internet with that Wi-Fi. So this access point will provide you that Wi-Fi hotspot. Okay, so without this access point, we can also create a network, one device to another device communication, but will be ad hoc. They are not connected to any network. Only four will be there in this network. We cannot have any communication between other networks. But with access point, we can connect to any network. That is possible. Okay, that is the difference between basic service set and the extended service set. So I have discussed about basic service set with access point and basic service without access point. Okay, so here again we have some more details. That is a basic service set with mobility and stationary. That is, access point also can be movable, or point is immovable. Where, for example, from your mobile, if you create a hotspot, this is a mobile access point. In college, we have fixed routers, Wi-Fi routers. They are called as stationary access points. Okay, these are the two things. And okay, here one more thing was there, station types. So here station types means no transition means all of them are fixed. The device should be within a single BSS. Like here, if I take this BSS 1, 2, 3, they are not allowed to move to any other BSS. Then they will not get connected. Okay. Then BSS transition means from one BS to another BSS, the device can move. That means in college, we have different access points are there. So if you move from one access point to other access point, automatically it gets connected, just like your mobile and mobile handoff. That means from one tower to another tower, if you move, then your call will not get disconnected. It will be continuous call, but tower will be changed. Like you can assume this one of the access point as towers. From one tower to another tower, if you change, then also signal will not get disturbed. Okay, that allow that permission to move from one access point to another access point is called as BSS transition. So if it is not allowed, that is no transition. Then another is extend ESS transition mobility. That means now a device in one of the extended service network can move to another extended service without disconnecting. That is called as ESS transition mobility. Okay, there are three types of mobilities are there. Okay, now when we come for the MAC layer in this IEEE 802.11 Wi-Fi, so if I come to the MAC sublayer, in this MAC sublayer, it is divided into distributed coordination function, DCF. Another is point coordination function. Okay, you can see this diagram here. One is this distributed coordination function and point coordination function. So what does it means? I will tell you. First of all, let us clear it. Clearly observe this diagram. In this physical layer, we have many sub options are there. One is FHSS, DSSS, infrared, then OFDM, TSS-A, DSSS-G. That is different versions of the Wi-Fi are available. That is FS stands for frequency hopping. If you have studied communication modulation techniques, then you will come to know. There is one is frequency hopping, direct sequence spread spectrum, DSS stands for infrared, orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, OFDMA, and 802.11a is a frequency band and 11g is another frequency band. So IEEE 802.11 supports a very huge range of frequencies. It comes under ISM band. ISM band will be 2.4 gigahertz. All Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, infrared, Zigbee, and all your mobile communications will be there in this band. It is ISM band, 2.4 gigahertz. It works in 2.4 gigahertz. This 2.4 gigahertz is divided into 16 channels. So each channel will be accessed at a different point. Like 802.11a will use some 5 channels, and 802.11 will 11g will use some other 5 channels. I will try to show that later. That frequency bands. It is now out of box for you. It operates in 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Right? Then what is this point coordination function and distributed coordination function? This MAC layer is divided into two. Okay, you can clearly observe that distributed coordination function, one chart is there. Let me check. Okay, no doubt. So in this distributed coordination function, it is a contention service. Okay, contention means there will be congestion will be there. Another is point coordination function, PCF is above this distributed coordination function. It is contention free service. So contention means what? There will be many a huge traffic will be there. That is called as contention. Okay, so you can also understand it as congestion. That is also same. So congested traffic, right? So distributed coordination will be congested, whereas point coordination is not congested. That means if you have created a Wi-Fi network, we have few users, few applications where we require huge fast access. That means if I'm in a video call, then data rate should be very fast. If a device is in video call, its data rate should be fast. That is supported by point coordination. But when I'm just transferring a file, then there is no speed requirement. Then it goes to distributed coordination function. That means based on the speed or access speed, we can schedule the speed. That means if the point coordination function is very fast, whereas the distributed coordination function is slow, because it serves for many of them at the same time, but this point coordination serves few of the devices based on the priority. This just assigning the priority of a speed uh, is called as this. That's why it is divided into two things. We'll see them later. So this distributed coordination function DCF is very, very simple. You have already studied it. Nothing is there. It is just as your CSMA CA. Carrier sends multiple access with collision avoidance. Nothing is there. It is same. Same explanation. There is no difference. Right? You can just refresh it. I will try to refresh that one. You can see here this DCF, that is distributed coordination function. It uses CSMA CA. Okay, but it cannot use CSMA CD. So Wi-Fi by default will not use collision detection method. Okay, it use carrier sense multiple access collision avoidance method. So if we keep on detecting the collisions, then there will be waste of the bandwidth. There are few reasons which I have given. That is why CD is not used, collision detection. One is waste of the bandwidth. If we keep on detecting the collisions and sending the data, it will take more waste of the bandwidth. Then if hidden node problems are there that cannot be solved with collision detections, that we'll see. Okay, and if the, as in this one, distance between the devices is very large, then strength of the signal will be very, very less. So detecting the strength of the signal is used for detecting the collisions. So strength cannot be found properly, therefore signal cannot be detected. So collision detection is not a good method. We have to go for CSMA CA only, collision avoidance. So this same flowchart which was there in CSMA CA is explained. Starts at the back of use any one of the persistent method. One persistent, non-persistent, pre-persistent. Okay. Wait for DFS, send RTS, wait for CTS. If CTS is received, wait for SIF, that is short interframe space. This is the DCF interframe space. You remember that this DIFS was DCF interframe space. Okay, was used. The same diagram is there. If two devices want to communicate, then what we do? First we wait for DIFS, then send RTS, that is ready to send. If there is no busy, then it waits for SIFS, then sends back clear to send. When clear to send is received by A, then it sends back, waits for again short interframe space. After that it starts sending the data. Once complete data is received, it will send back the acknowledgement. This is the process. So RTS, CTS, and is a control signal. This is the data which is sent back. Again, acknowledgement is a control signal which is sent back. So in the meantime, what happens whenever a RTS is received, then what others will do? When RTS is received, when it is sending clear to send, along with this CTS, this side to A and along with for C and for D, it will be sending the time duration until which A will be using this channel, so that nobody collisions will not occur. So along with this CTS, time duration to keep this communication busy, how much time it will take, that will be sent. So until that they will be stopped, there will not be communication from CED. Okay, so you can see that when CTS comes, there will be NAV. Okay, and when we receive no that is NAV, network allocation vector, NAV. So when NAV is there received, then C and D will not communicate until this NAV is over. So NAV is nothing but stop the communication until this side communication is over. The duration is given by this CTS, right? So once this NAV is over, once acknowledgement is received, after that C and D are free to start the communication. The same procedure is explained here again. That is same procedure is there. Wait for DFS, send RTS, wait for CTS, wait for SIFS, send frame, wait for acknowledgement. Once acknowledgement received, successful. If it is not received, wait for backup time. Same is CSMA CA. There is no change, nothing is there. That is same. The same thing is explained again, the same procedure. Okay, then so then there are few problems are there in this one. What are all those problems? Let me address first. I will go down completely here. This one. There are two problems. One is hidden station problem and exposed station problem. Two problems are there. So what is this first problem? Hidden station problem. So as you can see that A is middle and B is there. As you can see, these are the Wi-Fi access, Wi-Fi points. So they have some range. Say that 2 meters. So B to this border it is 2 meters. Again C for this it is a 2 meter range. Okay. So B's range is this much. C's range is this much. But actually B cannot directly communicate with C, and even C cannot communicate with B. Both of them are out of range, right? So what problem happens then? You can see the problem here. So here, as we have seen that B is out of reach of C and C is also out of reach of B, but A is common for B and C. Okay, but it is B is in out of reach, so its signal cannot go and reach up to C, right? So, but when see here, when B sends the request to A, it sends ready to send. Then there is no disturbance here. Nobody is sending the data. So then A will send the data to A will give a clear to send command. So when you can first you have to assume that when B is sending the data, data is broadcasted. Broadcasted means from B it is sent all over. That means in complete range data is sent. Whether devices are there or not, it will not bother. It will broadcast data in this region or in 2 meter surrounding. It will be broadcasting. Therefore, when B broadcast, it is received by A. Then when A receives this RTS, so A broadcasts the clear to send. It is as A range covers both A, B and C, it is broadcasted. Both C and B receives the clear to send. But this ready to send was sent by B and response was given for B clear to send. So after that B will start the communication, right? But in this problem what happens? When A is sending CTS, the same CTS is sent for C also. So this CTS includes the NAV, that is network allocation vector. That means how much time duration this channel will be busy. So as CT is sent for C, even though the request from B is not reaching C here, but this hidden node problem is solved clearly. That means by how it is solved? It is solved by this CTS. The CTS will manage. That is by allocating the network allocation vector. So further, when it receives CTS, C stops the communication. It will not disturb. It receives the NAV. It sets the network allocation vector. Wait for the time duration, and after that, once the time is over, they can communicate. That diagram is here. You can the same thing which I explained just now. It is here, right? So we send RTS. This clear to send is sent to all of them. Then once this CTS is received, they set NAV. They will not do communication. Once this said communication is over, then C and D and both all of them can initiate the communication. That is possible. So like this, even though the even though the B is not there in the range of C, C is a hidden node to B, okay, then there will not be any collision with the C. Okay, this problem is solved easily, right? This is that was the one problem. So another problem is exposed station problem. So in this exposed station problem, what happens? Okay, in this exposed station problem, now there is another trick here. So here problem occurs when here you can see that hidden node is solved. So now A will be exposing C to B and B to A, so that they know each other. But Now in this one, what is the problem? So here, if A wants to communicate with the B, A will be communicating with the B. So A is sending request to send, ready to send. So it is wants to communicate with B. So B gives back CTS, clear to send. Okay. Then A starts a communication with B, right? So A is sending the data and there will be communication occurring here. But request to when request to send to C, from B to A, clear to send is received because A is in the range of B. Therefore, clear to send from B to A is reached, whereas clear to send from B to C will not be reached. Now, if clear to send is not reached to C, then C will not come to know whether the channel is busy or not, right? So as CTS from this side, it is not reaching to C. C is not coming to know. In the previous case, you observed that B was sending the data to A, right? So A was sending clear to send. So clear to send from A was sent to B also and C also. So C and D communication was stopped. But problem is now B is sending clear to send. That clear to send is not received by C, right? Therefore, C still knows that channel is free. Therefore, again, if C starts sending the data, sending the request, this request, if C wants to communicate with D, so it sends data to D, request to send. But D will respond back with CTS, clear to send. Because of already there is a communication occurring between A and B. Okay, there is a data transmission. A will be broadcasting the data that will be covering this much region, right? This data is being transmitted. Where in that meantime, if CTS comes, then that CTS will be collision. This CTS and this data will collide, and if even though C and D are free, they cannot communicate with each other. This is an exposed node problem, right? Even C and D are freer, because of this channel is busy, it cannot communicate with the D. There is a problem. These are the two problems. One is hidden node problem, which is solved here, but so I have few of the images here to show you. You can imagine this one. Now what we can think is this blue color one is one of the network. So this will be a complete one college's network that is connected to the external world. So this you can think of another college network that is connected to the external world. So two colleges are there. So in one college we may have one BSS, multiple BSS, one BSS, second BSS, like that we have many BSS, basic service set. So one basic service set will have one access point. So another basic service set will have another access point. And for this basic service set, many Wi-Fi device will be freely moving Wi-Fi device will be connected, right? Such BSS, that is such access points will be many in a college. So completely collection of such access points, that is collection of this BSS will create one ESS. You can think ESS of one our college network completely, right? That is again connected to the internet. So possibilities are there. A device connected to BSS, that is one Wi-Fi network. If it is connected, it cannot go and connect to another Wi-Fi network, right? Then that will be if it moves from one BSS to another BSS, it is called as inter BSS movement. That is, and inter ESS movement will be if it moves from a one complete network to another complete network. Okay, so it will not get connected. We have to give the permissions to move in between either BSS to BSS or even from ESS to ESS. So this diagram shows you an idea of what is a BSS and ESS, right? So this one we have discussed in the last class. So now next again, we'll go to the previous problem, which where did we stop in yesterday? That is, the first problem is hidden node problem. We have discussed this one, hidden node problem. For B, the node C is hidden. So with the use of node A in between, it will solve the problem of this hidden node problem that we have discussed in the last class. Yesterday I was discussing and got disconnected from this point, that is exposed node problem or an exposed station problem. In this one, what happens here, the communicators are different. So we can assume that B has a range of this blue color, C has a range of communication in this region. So B and C are not connected. they are out of range, but they are connected by A can send the data to B and C. Okay, this is one of the thing. So what is the assumption is here, A can send the data for both B and C if they are in the range, right? So if in this case what we are assuming, A wants to send the data to B, A is requesting B to send, A is sending the data to B. Initially what it does, it will send RTS, request to send, then once it gets confirmation from B clear to send, then it starts sending the data, right? That is the same thing is happening. But whenever a device sends a data, it is broadcasted in its coverage completely. Therefore, A's RTS is sent to B also and C also. So A's coverage is this much area. Therefore, A broadcasts RTS. When RTS is received by B, so B will respond with clear to send. Okay, after that, this clear to send range is only this much because B's coverage is this much. This CTS is not received by C, right? You can see here. So once CTS is received by A, so A starts communicating the data, it sends the data completely. But C initially has received RTS, it waits for some time. There is no CTS being broadcasted here. So after timeout, what happens? C thinks that this channel is free, it can use. Therefore, C wants to send the data to D. Therefore, C starts sending the request to send RTS to D. Okay, but as this RTS is sent, D will respond with clear to send. This clear to send and the data being sent for B, he will get collide here. They will get collide. So this CTS is not received by C. Therefore, even though C is continuously sending RTS until this data communication is over, it cannot receive the CTS. Therefore, there will not be any communication between C and D. Okay, that is a problem. So even though the channel is free, C cannot use the data channel to send it to D. That is a exposed station problem. So this problem cannot be solved. This is a problem which exists. Some requests are there. Let me check. Wait for a minute. Okay, there are no issues. On my, let me admit him. Okay. Why will device C, well, there is one question from Shreyas. Why will device C reacts to device A when it wants to communicate to D? See here, his question is why the device C is reacting to A when it is sending the data to D. But you can the first thing is C is there, C's communication range is this much, say 2 meters. 1 meter from C to A, another meter from C to D. Total it is 1 meter circle completely with radius of 1 meter, right? So when C is sending the data, automatically by default, C broadcasts the data by default, whether A is accepting or not, it is sent to both A and D. Even if A is now sending the data is sent, the data is sent to broadcasted, it is sent to B and D. But it is intended to B, therefore it will accept the data, but it is not being intended to C, therefore C will not accept the data. That is the reason, right? Whenever a node is sending the data, it is broadcast in its coverage area. You can see this diagram, right? So A can broadcast. When A sends the data, it is sent for both B, up to both B and C. When C is sending the data, it is sent to both A and D because they are in the range of C. That's fine. So that is why C reacts when A is sending the when C is sending the data, A will react, right? When the data from A is being coming here, request from D, both get collide here. So this collision will lead to no communication between C and D. I think the doubt is clear, right? We'll move ahead. Okay, now we'll come to first. Let me cover the physical layer architecture. Then we'll come to frames. One. Right. Okay, now let me come back to the physical layer. In this one, I have few diagrams. So what is the frequency range of communication of Wi-Fi? You can see this Wi-Fi, as I said previously, it operates in 2.4 gigahertz band. Okay, so I have shown one diagram here. You can imagine that. So it is 2.4 gigahertz. That is 2412 to some range, up to 2.41 to 2.48, right? So this is the range of frequency in which it will operate, IEEE 802.11. Okay, this is the frequency range. This is the ISM band. ISM band stands for, so this is the ISM band. You can observe ISM band stands for here it is written industrial, scientific and medical. Means this is the frequency range which is used for industrial applications, scientific and medical applications. And don't think that this simple Wi-Fi, in the same Wi-Fi band people will be using Bluetooth, people will be using Zigbee, even your hot ovens. Ovens will also be being used the same frequency. 2.4 gigahertz speed. So speed is, frequency is different and speed is different. It is the frequency in which we are operating. Speed will be different. Speed depends upon the which type of communication which we are using, which type of modulation techniques we are using. Either we are using Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and all. Based on them, the device will be, speed will be dependent, right? Okay, we'll come back. So you can see here the frequency, you can see there that 10 hertz to 1 megahertz we have AM broadcast, and 1 megahertz to 100 megahertz we have FM broadcast. And you can see this green color indication, it is ISM band, right? 350 to 95 megahertz. This one, in this range, one ISM band is there. Another ISM band, that is 2.4 gigahertz ISM band. One more ISM band, right? And these are 2.4 gigahertz ISM bands. So these are the ISM bands which we are operating. So Wi-Fi will use this 2.4 gigahertz ISM band. So IS bands are, this is also ISM band and this is also ISM band, which lie in this ultra high frequency. But this 2.4 gigahertz will be used for the Wi-Fi, right? And let me close this diagram. Okay, when I come down to another one here, that is 2.4 to 2.4 gigahertz. This is divided into number of channels. If you assume that it is a Wi-Fi at 802.11, you can see there are 14 channels. 14 channels are there, each one of 22 megahertz. So first channel, second channel, third channel, fourth channel, like that. Each is of a 22 megahertz bandwidth is 22 megahertz. Center frequency will be accordingly, right? This is one of the application, same band, same frequency band which is used by Wi-Fi. But when I come for Bluetooth, you can see here Bluetooth. In Bluetooth again same thing, 2.4 gigahertz to 2.4.8 gigahertz, right? Here we have 1 to 79. There are 70 80 channels are there for Wi-Fi, no, for Bluetooth, for lower versions. If I go for higher version of Bluetooth, that is low energy, there are 40 channels. 40 channels are there. But here bandwidth is 1 megahertz, 1 megahertz. But when I come for IEEE 802.15.4, this you can think of the Zigbee network. Zigbee will be using this one. So Zigbee here it is using 2 megahertz bandwidth. So totally we can have 26, sorry, 26 minus 11. It will be around 12 channels which are being used, right? Uh, but in Wi-Fi we'll be using 14 channels. But what I was intention was to say that, so you can think that all these technologies are in 2.4 gigahertz band only, right? So there will be many interference which will occur in this range. And don't think that all the frequencies will be used. There are many channels, and based on country, based on the areas, these frequencies will be shared. Like even though there are 11 channel, 14 channels are there, you can highlight, see that channel number 1, channel number 6, and channel number 11. There is one doubt. If you have doubts, you can text me if you have any doubts. right? So in this one, there are 14 channels. I will try to show you one more. In this one, you can see that there are 14 channels. So, but we will be using only channel number 1, channel number 6, and channel number 11. Why we will be using these 3 channels? Because there will not be any overlapping. Means all these signals channels are overlapped. When channels are overlapped, if I use channel number 1 and 2, then if whatever data I send in channel number 1 and channel number 2, they get mixed up. So we'll not hear anything, right? Therefore, the channel number 1 and channel number 6, they are not overlap with a band gap here. Similarly, channel number 6 and 11 are non-overlap. Therefore, means even though 14 channels are there, people will not use all the channels. We have to restrict that. Either we have to go for non-overlapping channels are preferred mode. Therefore, usually 1, 6, and 11 channels are used for Wi-Fi. Right? Each is of 22 megahertz. And in this one, I will try to show you one more diagram. In this 20 megahertz band, there will be primary signal, major lobe, and there will be secondary lobes and tertiary lobes. Here, signal means even the same frequency will be repeated after some frequency bands. Therefore, even the signal is there, it will not be in center frequency, it will spread to other frequencies, so there will be interference, mixing of the signal. So we should ensure that we are keeping them apart like this, right? This is one of the requirement. Okay, this is the one thing, right? You can clearly see here IEEE 802. In this IEEE 802.11, there are many versions are there. 11A, 11B, 11G, 11N, 11AC. There are many methods are there. Each one will be using different techniques. We'll discuss them later, one by one, right? One channel number 1, 6, and 11 are usually used. In advanced standards, there are another channel number 14. This is also being used to increase the speed. So this one, not only in 2.4 gigahertz, the frequency Wi-Fi will be using, it also uses a 5 megahertz band. That is, 5 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. Even, that also falls under the ISM band. Sorry, it will not fall under ISM band. It will be under non-licensed band, 5 megahertz, 5 gigahertz. So we can either 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz band will be being used for Wi-Fi. We'll see that later. Right, this is about the one overview. Now I will come back to the PDF. So we'll discuss all other things later. First, let me finish this. Okay. I have skipped some portions above, that is MAC layer. First I am discussing about only physical layer of this one. So physical layer, this operates in 2.4 gigahertz ISM band. So there are many methods. Initially it was set up using FHSS, that is frequency hopping spread spectrum. And second method is DSS, direct sequence spread spectrum. And infrared also was used for Wi-Fi. Now it is not being used. OFDM is the present method which is being used. And IEEE 802B, again direct sequence spread spectrum with high data rate, it is also being used. These are the only few methods, IEEE 802G and 11N. There are many standards are there in Wi-Fi only. So all these can be used for Wi-Fi transmission. These are the changes in physical medium. When I come for this first diagram, this diagram I had shown you previously. In this diagram, you can see here physical layer. Either it can use any of these techniques, 8.2.11 FHSS, DSSS, infrared, DSSS, higher data rate, OFDM. There are many methods are there. So each standard changes. There are improvements in each standards. Okay, we'll see this we are discussing presently. This MAC layer I will go ahead later. Right? So when I we'll come back to the same slide. Okay, first we'll start with this FHH, that is frequency FHSS, frequency hopping spread spectrum. That is this one. IEEE, okay, sorry, physical layer. If I use this method, that is IEEE 802.11, FHSS. It was initially designed. So 802.11 FHS, frequency hopping spread spectrum. So first of all, it is all not given in this notes. We need not discuss all those topics. What is FHSS? But for your understanding, I am trying to cover with some images. Which was this one? Okay, this was the diagram of ISM band, where this is the IEEE 802.11 which we use when we can use this 5 gigahertz band, and this 902 to 928 also falls under ISM band. So these are commonly open for all the devices, any scientific devices which we can use. This I had discussed. So we'll come here. So frequency hopping spread spectrum. So in this one you can see that this frequency band, that is 20 megahertz band, 20 megahertz band is divided into 22 megahertz band into small frequencies, say of each one of 1 megahertz. So all the 20 megahertz will not be used at the same time. Initially we start sending the data from this frequency, then we shift to another frequency, then we shift to another frequency, like we jump on frequencies, so that there will not be any interference in the signal. So this is one of the method of sharing the frequency, how the frequency is shared, right? So if we use this frequency hopping spread spectrum, then we divide the frequency at a time. We'll be only accessing one frequency, one sub portion of the 22 megahertz, right? So that means what, at a time, at a single time, we'll be using only 1 megahertz. Okay, 1 megahertz bandwidth. So in 1 megahertz, it will support a speed of 1 Mbps without encoding. Without doing any encoding, it will be supporting 1 megahertz. Therefore, by default, your Wi-Fi will support 1 Mbps speed, right? We come to this diagram. Okay, so there are this 2.4 gigahertz. It is divided into 79 subbands of 1 megahertz. I can use any of these frequencies, 79 megahertz frequency. So based on the requirement, modulation, further modulation techniques which we apply, either it can be increased to 2 Mbps, right? If I go for 2 level of FSK and 4 level of FSK, if I go for 2 level of FSK, that is because we are sending data in zeros and ones. Zero is represented by one frequency. Without no frequency, one is represented by a frequency. Then I will get a data rate of 1 Mbps. That is comes under 2 level. So if I double it, then my 1 Mbps speed will be increased by 4 Mbps, where we'll have 4 different frequencies indications in the frequency hopping. At maximum I can get 2 Mbps speed. What is this frequency? Pseudo random sequence. Pseudo random sequence means this will give which are all the frequencies we need to select. That means this is one of the pattern. This is one pattern, random pattern. The pattern can also be like this. Start from here, then go to this frequency, then go to this, go to this. This is a random frequency. This which frequency should be selected for sending the data, that is decided by this random sequence generator. This random sequence generator gives some random pattern. From that pattern, frequencies will be allocated. 1 megahertz frequency will be allocated, and we share the signal. So with this one, we can achieve a 1 Mbps speed. This is one of the physical method used, which is outdated. Nowadays, we are not at all using this method. Very old method, right? Again, we go for a second method, that is direct sequence spread spectrum, DSSS. Okay, again, it is used in 2.4 gigahertz band. You can see that 11 chip Barker sequence is being used. You can see that speed is increased by 11 megahertz. How does it is increased? We'll see here. Right, this will close. Okay, this diagram you can see what you are doing in this one, direct sequence spread spectrum. We are spreading the signal, right? Why we need to spread the signal? There is a reason. There is a reason. Let me share a whiteboard. So if I take a bandwidth like this, right? If I take a noise, sorry, if I take a noise which is coming from another side, If this noise comes here and overtakes this one, then right, let me draw one more time. Assume this is a noise. There is a frequency band, small frequency, and noise comes, then it gets easily disturbed, right? But when I have a frequency of like this, when my frequency band, that is bandwidth is this, sorry, if my bandwidth is like this, when I increase the bandwidth, strength will decrease. When my band is this frequency band, if you can think that this is 2 megahertz, this is your 22 megahertz. When I make this one, what happens? When noise is coming, but it is affecting only some portion of the frequency band. It can affect only small portions. Therefore, it is better if you have spreaded signal. If I spread the signal, then interference will be less. Therefore, people go for spreading. So that technique is used this one, frequency spreading. You can see this diagram. There is initially, if data is of this much frequency, then that can be spreaded to this much. So 2 megahertz can be spreaded to 22 megahertz, right? You can assume that this blue color is data. When I multiply this data with some random code, okay. When I wait, uh, okay. Now when I multiply this data with some random code, this data, instead of sending one bit data, if it is one bit data, that data can be spreaded into multiple bits. So in this one, it is covering 4 bits. Each bit here is covered by 4 bits. So we are spreading 1 bit to 4 bit here. This is a simple example. But actually we will not do like that. Here we spread 1 bit to 11 bits. Therefore, 1 bit, instead of representing 1 bit, we represent it by 11 bits. Okay, so how do we do then? We take one bit, that one bit, if it is assumed that one, there is one code is there. That code we go on multiplying with that one. Then whatever the output will get, that will be our converted data. So we try, it's not clear. Let me draw a diagram. Right. If I take one number here, then that will be multiplied by this number. So after multiplying, I will get the same number 10010. Okay, this will be my new number. This one I have changed it to this new number. So instead of representing it by one bit, I will be representing it by, assume that there are 11 bits, I will be representing it by 11 bits. By this, what I can do, I will be spreading this signal over 11 bits. Right. So this is a method used in DSS, direct frequency spread spectrum. So therefore, there is a 11-bit sequence which is multiplied by the data. Now data, instead of being 1 Mbps, it will be increased to 11 Mbps. If I go for BPSK will be either using uh, 0 or 1. BPSK is binary. Only 2 digits. We can either 0 or 1 will be represented. So therefore, we'll get the data rate of 11 Mbps. Okay, but if I want to increase it more, then what I will do, simply instead of BPSK, we'll go for QPSK, where 4 bits can be stored in one data. Therefore, the overall data rate will be doubled. Instead of 11 Mbps, it becomes 22 Mbps. So if you go for BPSK, 11 Mbps. If I go for QPSK, it will become 22 Mbps. So with this one, we can achieve a 22 Mbps speed. Another method is infrared region. Here infrared region, you can see that infrared lies in this region. That will be around 10 to the power of 14 to 10 to the power of 12 to 10 to the power of 14 hertz. That will be more than, again, 100,000 times increased by gigahertz. You can assume that 100,000 gigahertz. Okay. It is not range in the not available in the radio frequency range. RF will be less than that, right? So it is not falls under the radio frequency. Previously, people were using this method for Wi-Fi, but nowadays it is outdated. Okay. In this also, what we'll be doing, it is also the same method is being used here, right? There are two methods are there. 4 is to 16 means if I have a data rate of 4, if I have a data 4, then the 4-bit data is represented as 16-bit data. If I have a 2-bit data, that is represented by 4-bit data. Okay, we are increasing the number of bits. So by this one, what we'll get, the signal gets spreaded up. It's also one of the method of DSS only. Instead of RF frequency, we are using just infrared. So modulation techniques here we will be using, not will be using BPSK or QPSK. Here we have to go for using light waves, that is infrared modulation techniques, pulse position. If pulse is there, then it is 1, pulse is not there, then it is 0. So like this, we can again increase the speed. 4 is to 16 will give us a speed of 1 Mbps. 2 is to 4 bit increment will give me a speed of 2 Mbps. Again, it is outdated. We people are not using this infrared. No more will be using this method, right? So finally, we'll go for IEEE 802.11a OFDMA technique. OFDMA technique is very important one. People will be presently using this method. So you can observe that OFDMA IEEE 802.a means until that IEEE 802.a version was not used, it stands for OFDM. OFD stands for orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. I think you have not studied this one. Let me show some examples of this. So it goes for 5 gigahertz. Instead of 2.4 gigahertz, we go for 5 gigahertz band. Let me search and show you this one. OFDM. So in this one, you can clearly observe that signals are overlapped here, right? This is a method which is used. We don't worry about all those things. Just observe this. This one signal and there is another signal. Next frequency, first frequency, second frequency, third frequency, fourth frequency. But you can clearly observe that the frequencies are being overlapped. They are not separate, right? I will try to show this diagram. Right. So in this one, you can see that signals are overlapped. That is, even though it is overlapping, signals will not get mixed up. The alternative frequencies will not mix up because they are orthogonal in nature. Orthogonality means they are out of frequency, out of phase. That is, they are shifted by 90 degrees, right? The signal is shifted by 90 degrees, out of phase by 90 degrees. When they are out of phase by 90 degrees, then they are not going to mix. Therefore, even though F1 and F2 they are lying over each other, they are not overlapped. They will not mix up. So this gives a condition that previous diagrams you can see that I close that PDF. You can see this diagram that even here they are overlapping, they will mix up. But if you go for a concept of OFDM, then they are not going to mix each other. So that is one of the advantage. But in this second diagram, you can see that they are not overlapped. Okay, but like this here in this diagram, if you see closely here also, then okay, last this one, even though here they are not overlapped, but if you see this OFDM concept, then they are overlapped. So it doubles the frequency. If there are 10 channels, then without OFDM, 10 channels are there. With OFDM, you can double, make them as 20 channels, then overall bandwidth will be doubled using the OFDM. That is the beauty of OFDM technique. Okay, so OFDM technique is like this. They are not overlapping. This makes the signal inter-symbol interference will be less. So one more thing is this 22 megahertz is not a single frequency now. That 22 megahertz is divided into 22 channels. No, sorry. The 22 channels, it is not 22 channels. It is divided into 64 channels. I will try to come here. Okay, you can see this one. It is divided into 64 channels. So out of 64 channels, uh, there will be 12 channels which will be used for guard bands. Okay, 12 channels will be used for guard bands. Guard bands means if assume that these are the channels last frequencies. Okay, they will be used for non-overlapping for other bands, out of bands, guard bands, separator bands. Okay, so 12 channels will be used for guard bands. Okay, now if out of 64, if I subtract 12, then I will be left out with 52. In that 52, there are 4 sub bands, means pilot signals are there, means if it is here, then it will be better to show you people. Let me check. FTM. Okay, it is not there. Okay, it is not there in this PDF. Okay, out of this 64 channels, they assume that there are 20 megahertz band is there, that is 22 megahertz, that is divided into 64 channels which are overlapping each other with OFDM technique. In that 64, 12 will be subtracted for as a guard bands. Guard bands will be 3 bands. They are used to, so that other out of band, out of 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz, they will not mix up with this band, the gap bands, guard bands. And in that 52 sub bands, 4 sub bands in between, like center carrier frequency will be there, again sub carrier frequencies will be there. 4 are used as a sub pilot signals. If we subtract 4, then left will be 48. That means in that 22 megahertz band, 48 channels are created. So these 48 channels can send the data now. Okay, so with this means you can assume that it is 22 megahertz is not a single band now. It is subdivided into 42 sub channels. Each of them will be sending the data. Now, therefore, the signal, if it is of a normal method, then by default, if we go for a QPSK method over this one, okay, in this one, by this what we can achieve, instead of we were having 11 Mbps with the previous method, now with this OFDM technique, if I go for PSK, that is phase shift keying, then phase shift giving will give you 4 quadrants. It is nothing but your QAM or 4 PSK, that will give you 4 quadrants, each quadrant of 2 bits. Then 2 bits, we'll get a data of 2 bits. Instead of 1 bit, we'll get 2 bit data. Therefore, your data is doubled, right? Instead of 11, approximately we'll get 22 Mbps. It is shown here 18 Mbps. With PSK, we'll get 20 up to 22 Mbps. Instead of 22 Mbps, if I increase it by again 64 QAM, this QAM is there. In QAM, we have many methods. 4 QAM, 8 QAM, 64 QAM, 128 QAM, 256 QAM. If I go for a 64 QAM, then we can go up to 54 Mbps speed. So Wi-Fi with the OFDMA supports 54 Mbps. Now again goes on, we go on changing the methods. Again on this one, here we are applying a QPSK methods, right? That is 1:4 and 1:8. If I apply a 1 data rate and multiply it with the QPSK modulation technique of 1:8, okay, then we'll go get a speed of say 11 Mbps, right? If we without applying this 1:4, then we'll get only 5.5 Mbps. If I double the QPSK method, then the rate will be doubled, 11 Mbps. Again, if I go on increasing this number of modulation bits, then my speed goes on increasing. This is backward compatible. That means what? This direct sequence spectrum and this OFDM, they are backward compatible to normal DSS. They are backward compatible. Even this normal DSS supports only 11 Mbps, but this supports OFDMA and higher bit data rate OFDMAs. They will support you up to 64 Mbps. It can go up to 860 Mbps. That is approximately equal to 1 Gbps speed can be achieved by Wi-Fi. Okay, that much speed, even it supports, it is backward compatible with the DSS. Okay, this is one more method which is used. Right, so this is a WFDM technique. In this one, let me check chart is there. Okay, so in this one, another method, IEEE 802.11b DSS, again direct frequency spectrum with HR is higher rate. Okay, higher rate direct sequence spectrum. The same thing is used here. Modulation technique is C is there. Complementary code keying is applied over this one. So when I apply complementary code selector, that means what I will do, the 1 bit data rate I will increase it to 4 bit data rate, and 1 bit data rate I will increase it to 8 bit data rate. I'll increase the number of bits that can be encoded. Instead of 1 bit, I will encode a 4 bit. Therefore, by that my speed goes on doubling and tripling. So how many bits I can encode using this CCTM encoding method, that much speed I will get. We can go on increasing speeds on this method, right? Similarly, we have IEEE 802.11g and 11n and 11ac. There are many methods are there, right? So each one will be using further this IEEE 802.11 and 11n. They commonly again they use OFDMA techniques here. Either they use OFDMA techniques or DSS techniques. Both of them can be used here. IEEE 802.11, if it uses a OFDM technique in 2.4 gigahertz band, again we can achieve a speed up to 54 Mbps speed, right? And here IEEE 802.11, this method, what the people did is, we are getting only 54 Mbps speed, still we want to increase mean, we have to minimize the error. The error can be minimized if you go for MIMO. The MIMO stands for multiple input, multiple output antenna. So we can assume that in Wi-Fi router, previously we were using only one antenna. Nowadays you can see there are two antennas. There can be four antennas in Wi-Fi routers. So as we go on increasing the multiple antennas, at a time we can send data over four different antennas and receive over four different antennas, right? By this one, what we can achieve is the speed is again further increased a lot. You can see there up to 600 Mbps. In real time, presently we are using up to 860 Mbps speed data over IEEE 802.11 AC. That is a recent method which is being used. With this multiple input, multiple output techniques, the further speed is enhanced. You can see the complete comparison of this diagram. So FHSS, DSSS, OFDMA, DSSS with the high rate, and OFDMA with multiple antennas. Okay, with this one, speed is compared, and which are all the modulation techniques are used, they are discussed. You can see that OFDMA here, there are two OFDMAs are there. IEEE 802.11a uses operates in 5 gigahertz band, whereas IEEE 802.11g operates in 2.4 gigahertz band, right? These are the this is the ISM band which is being used. So this will be the physical layer architecture, the physical layer discussion about of the Wi-Fi completely. This is not so easy topic. It is a bit difficult topic because you have to know about this DSS and WFDMA and this frequency hopping spectrum, because all these topics come under your higher level studies of communications, which you will not be studying right now. By the end of the semester or next semester, we will come across these techniques. Okay, without knowing these techniques, understanding this will be a bit difficult, but I have tried my level best to convince you people how much I can share the knowledge. Okay, this is about the different physical medium, physical techniques, physical layer techniques which are used in this Wi-Fi that we have discussed. That is come down to this diagram. Okay, we have discussed about this all these techniques, physical layer technologies used in this Wi-Fi. Only few are there. Actually, in real time, there are lots of standards are there, right? They are not one. Let me show you the standards, all of them. You can see here we can go for 16 km, 16 km, 64 km modulation techniques can be applied. Let me cover all of them. Okay, this diagram showing many of them methods. Okay, you can see that single input, single output. This is 1:1 antenna, whereas MIMO is multiple antenna. It is 4:4, 4x4 antennas, right? IEEE 802.11 and IEEE 802.11.c. Okay, instead of 4:4 antenna, we are going for 8:8, 8 into 8 antennas. So if you want to go for higher speed, then we are increasing the number of antennas. Right, with this one we can achieve more speeds. So this is a standard which are being presently used, but normally we people will be using either IEEE 802G or B or A. These are the methods, Wi-Fi technologies which we will be using in our hotspots or in mobiles. Okay, this about the physical layer. We have just covered the physical layer techniques of the Wi-Fi IEEE 802.11 standard. Okay. In the next class, we'll be covering the MAC layer of the IEEE 802.11 Wi-Fi. And next, I will discuss about the Bluetooth. Again, in this chapter, we have next Bluetooth concepts are there. The next class, I will cover MAC layer of the Wi-Fi, and I will cover the Bluetooth architecture completely. Thank you for your patience listening.